Hello, welcome. I'm Lula Miller, Master Herbalist and owner of Wholehearted Apothecary. Today we're going to be creating an herb-infused oil using culinary sage from my gardens here at Miller's Haven. To create our infused oil, we're going to need a canning jar, a canning funnel, a butter knife, some olive oil or the carrier oil of your choice, and some herbs, freshly harvested or dried, but in either case with no wetness to the surface of them. We're ready to start creating our oil. Start by breaking up your herb pieces. You can do this by hand or with a set of scissors that are, again, clean and dry. Especially when working with oils, it's very important that everything be clean and dry. And before people ask, yes, my hands are clean and very dry also. You don't want to introduce any foreign bacteria into the products, and you don't want to introduce any moisture. Any outside of the norm can lead to the increased likeliness of a molded product in the end. We are working today with culinary sage, Salvia officinalis, from my gardens here at Miller's Haven in southern Wisconsin, where sage grows as a biennial. In some places, sage is a short-lived perennial, meaning it can go more than one season, more than 2 seasons, in the case of being more than biennial, before going to flower and making seeds. This year, my sage plants are in their 2nd year, and they have begun to flower. We're working with only the leaves and leaf stalks or stems. The oil that we're creating today will be used as the base for an herbal deodorant. Now, sage is often used for its digestive properties, helping to ease digestive upset and increase the body's ability to digest foods. It is also often used as a respiratory aid. I've seen it in a lot of steams. People will inhale the herbal steam to relieve symptoms of congestion and bad coughs. We're really looking at the antimicrobial properties and sage's ability to reduce excessive perspiration. Both of those things are very beneficial in a deodorant. As I've experienced it, we don't have to add any ingredients such as baking soda or arrowroot powder to help absorb and soak up sweat. It does take time for the body to adjust to using a natural deodorant. However, the body does not end up creating as much sweat. The antimicrobial properties prevent bacteria from growing in those places, and as often is the case, excessive bacteria is what makes for stinky BO. Sage also has a wonderful fragrance. It's very high in volatile oils or essential oils. This fragrance has been used for centuries in body soaps and perfumes, which also makes it give a pleasant fragrance to the body while being used as a deodorant. I'm going to keep working on filling up this jar. We will want the jar filled pretty much to the top with plant material, and I will meet you right back here once that's done. We're filled up pretty much to the top here. I know that last video was sped up, but some of you may have noticed that it was getting pretty hard for me to let go at the end. It's sticky. It takes a while. It's not as sticky as something like calendula, but sage does have some of those properties I have come to associate with healing herbs and protective herbs. Now this one, sage, is protective. It actually is very high in antioxidants, and so it's protective to cells within the body. It's often used to help reduce inflammation and swelling in places with high lymph node counts, for example, in the throat. But as some of you are aware, there are also high numbers of lymph cells in your armpits, so it makes this another great application as a deodorant. So you'll notice I'm making this in a pint-sized jar. When I create infused oils, more often you'll see me using a half pint or even a quarter pint jar. Oils can go rancid quickly, and they have a higher chance than other herbal preparations of going moldy. Now the reason I'm making a larger batch rather than a smaller batch in this case is that sage happens to be very high in rosmarinic acid. Yep, that same thing that rosemary is very high in. Now rosemary is so antimicrobial that it is often added to other herbal oil infusions to help prevent molding. So an entire jar full of sage and oil is highly unlikely, as long as you've avoided moisture in your product, to go moldy in processing. That's why I'm getting away with a larger batch versus a smaller batch where if something goes wrong in one little jar, it's unlikely to go wrong in every little jar, and you feel less depressed, let's say, having to throw away a tiny jar of moldy oil than a big jar of moldy oil. Now that that's filled up, we're going to go ahead and get our canning funnel out. Pull that back so you can see a little better here. So there's my canning funnel. And we're going to start to cover the herbs with our carrier oil. In my case, it's an extra virgin olive oil. You'll see it slowly dripping down, and air bubbles are being released as it goes down. So I want to go slowly so I don't overflow as it's letting out the air to make room for the oil. We're at the top here now, so that means it's time to pull out our butter knife. So any air bubbles in contact with air increases the chance of the oil going rancid in processing or of mold developing. Now I know I'm mentioning the word mold a lot in here and rancidity a lot in this video, and I don't want you to be too scared that that will happen. I have not had that happen very often. As long as you're being very clean and working with dry products, you should be okay. However, if those things do happen, they can be pretty dangerous. So you need to be careful and follow the steps. Don't be impatient or run out to collect your herbs right after a rainstorm and start making an infused oil immediately. As I'm doing this, little bubbles of air are rising to the surface. It's being released from being trapped between the leaves, and as they come out, oil is going into its place. We're going to keep going until no more bubbles are rising to the surface. And once we reach that point, we're going to top off with oil so that the oil is to the top of the jar and the herbs are completely covered. You can't see this, but releasing those air bubbles took me from a jar filled to the top with olive oil, and it took me down 1/8 of an inch. And that's what I am topping off right now. Now we're going to tightly close the jar. The last thing we need to do is label. So I'll just label with masking tape, very easy. Always put your date, the plant, and plant part. In this case, I would normally write like sage aerial parts, which means sage above ground or sage leaves. Extra virgin olive oil is my menstruum. And I like to put a little note about which product I'm making this for, in this case an herbal deodorant. Once that is labeled, this is going to go into a dark cupboard where it will steep for a minimum of 6 to 8 weeks. You'll want to put it in a place where you won't completely forget about it, as every few days or so it's good to give it a little shake like this, just to make sure all of those leaves stay covered in olive oil. After that 6 to 8 week period, it'll be ready to strain and then use to make your product. Thanks for watching. You can click the like and subscribe buttons and send this on to a friend who might be interested. That'd be great. Thanks. Bye.